Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we dig into a whole pile of sources to pull out the key knowledge you need, and fast. Today, we're diving deep into John D. Rockefeller. Specifically, what really drove him as his oil empire just kept growing and growing.
Right, we've looked through quite a bit of historical material on this.
Yeah, and our mission really is to unpack those motivations stage by stage and, crucially, see what valuable lessons pop out for you, especially if you're, maybe building a business yourself.
Definitely. Rockefeller's obviously a huge figure, built this, unprecedented fortune, lots of partnerships, but also some pretty relentless acquisitions.
He's controversial, no doubt, admired and criticized. But let's start right at the beginning, before the oil boom really took off.
Okay, so what's fascinating is even before oil, you can see these core drivers already there. He's 16, working as a bookkeeper, not earning much at all.
Like barely anything by today's standards.
Exactly, but he's already saving money and giving some away. That's pretty remarkable for a teenager back then.
It shows this early discipline, doesn't it?
It really does. And
Yeah.
it wasn't just a phase. He kept giving more as his income grew. So it suggests something deeper than just, wanting to get rich.
And it wasn't just about the money itself. We see other signs too, right? This resourcefulness.
Yeah, that skill in bargaining. Even something as basic as learning how to pick out good quality wood for his dad.
It points to a mind that's always looking for value, for efficiency, instinctively.
Mm-hmm. And then there's how he handled borrowing money, even early on. That's quite telling.
Oh yeah, that tactic of suggesting he needed a bigger investment before asking for the actual loan he wanted.
Right. It shows this savviness, an understanding of leverage, maybe, and a certain confidence when dealing with finance, even before he hit the big time.
So if you break down those early actions,
Mm.
what does it tell us?
Well, you see a pattern forming. That financial discipline. It wasn't just saving for saving's sake. It built the capital he needed later. It was foundational. And the bargaining skills, it wasn't just getting a good price on wood. It trained him to think about optimizing everything, minimizing costs.
Which impacts the bottom line directly.
Absolutely. And the borrowing, it showed he understood how to use other people's money strategically to amplify his own plans. That's a huge insight for any entrepreneur starting out with limited funds.
So, thinking about you, our listener, maybe starting or growing something, what really jumps out here?
I think it really highlights those maybe less glamorous but totally critical foundations. It's not just the big idea, is it?
No, it's the groundwork.
Exactly. Building that habit of managing money well right from day one, that gives you runway options.
And in the negotiation piece.
Definitely. Understanding value, pushing for better terms that directly boosts your margins. It's a core skill.
And finally, the financing aspect.
Yeah, not being afraid to strategically use partnerships or borrowing. Leveraging external resources smartly can be, rocket fuel for scaling up, especially when you're starting small. We see all these things in Rockefeller's early days.
Okay, so he's got this drive, this financial discipline, this savviness. He enters the oil game, which brings us to Standard Oil.
Right, 1870. This wasn't accidental. He and his partners, they deliberately decided to combine their existing oil businesses into the Standard Oil Company of Ohio.
And they picked their spot carefully, didn't they? Focused on refining.
Yeah, refining was seen as, less risky than drilling for oil. That whole wildcatting thing was unpredictable. Refining offered more control, more stability in the value chain.
And the results were pretty staggering. Within, 2 years?
Just 2 years. They basically controlled almost all the oil refineries in Cleveland. And Cleveland was becoming the major refining hub.
The sheer intentionality there is striking. It wasn't just, let's merge. It was a calculated move, right?
Absolutely. Calculated to unify assets, gain control, boost efficiency. Focused on that specific part of the process where they could really make a difference. It shows a very strategic mind analyzing a chaotic industry.
And he knew he needed the right people.
Crucially, yes. He brought in really capable partners, Henry Flagler, his own brother William. He clearly understood that you need a strong team, people with different skills.
You can't do it alone at that scale.
No way. And the speed they dominated Cleveland, which was the key center, then it just shows how powerful that combination of strategic focus and teamwork really was.
So what were the concrete benefits of that consolidation and team building?
Well, first, centralized management. You get better oversight, more control over operations, which leads straight to efficiency gains.
Makes sense.
Second, that strong team brought diverse skills, different energies. You absolutely need that to handle the bumps in the road during rapid growth.
And the third?
Dominance in Cleveland. That gave them a powerful base, a launch pad right in the heart of the industry's most important refining center at the time.
So for you listening, what are the takeaways from this particular stage?
I think, firstly, it really hammers home the importance of building a strong team. Not just talented people, but people with complementary skills, all aligned with the vision.
It's about the combination.
Exactly. Secondly, there's real strategic value in picking your battles. Focus on a profitable and, maybe more importantly, a controllable piece of your industry initially. For them, it was refining.
Don't try to do everything at once.
Right. And thirdly, the power of consolidation. Strategically bringing related interests together can create huge synergies, boost efficiency, and give you real market clout. It's about making the whole stronger than the parts.
Okay, so they've got Cleveland pretty much locked down. Where does Rockefeller turn his attention next?
Transportation,
Right.
logistics. He realized that controlling refining wasn't enough if you couldn't control how the oil got to market efficiently.
It sounds less exciting than striking oil, but it's vital.
Absolutely vital. He apparently viewed the whole transportation network like a giant chess game. Very calculated, very strategic.
He saw the bigger picture, didn't he? That refining and transportation were completely interlinked.
Yes, exactly. Systems thinking.
Right.
You could be the best refiner in the world, but if your transport costs kill you, what's the point? He got that early on.
And he was persistent. That whole South Improvement Company thing blew up in his face, huge public outcry.
Yeah, that was a controversial scheme to get preferential railroad rates. It got annulled
But did he give up? No. He went right back to the railroads.
immediately. And this time, he used Standard Oil's sheer volume as leverage. Because they shipped so much oil, the railroads needed them.
So he secured massive rebates anyway, often secretly.
He did. It shows incredible determination, resilience, and a sharp understanding of how to use scale as a weapon.
A classic example of market power creating negotiating power.
Definitely. Smaller guys just couldn't command those kinds of deals.
So the benefits here seem pretty clear. Lower transport costs.
Which meant a huge financial advantage. They could either lower prices to squeeze competitors or just pocket higher margins.
And it even neutralized the advantage of refineries located closer to the oil fields, right?
Yes, because Standard Oil could offset that geographical closeness with their lower transport rates. Very clever.
And it was all laying the groundwork for even more control down the line.
Absolutely. Setting the stage for dominating the entire logistics network.
So for you, navigating, getting your own product or service out there, what are the lessons?
Well, first, don't underestimate logistics. Getting that part right, securing good terms, it can be a massive competitive edge. It's not just an afterthought.
It's core to the business.
Totally. Second, persistence pays off. If one route gets blocked, like the South Improvement Company, look for another way. Adapt. Keep pushing for that strategic goal.
Don't just give up.
Right. And finally, leverage your scale. As you grow, as your volume increases, remember that gives you power. Use it to negotiate better deals with suppliers, with shippers, with everyone.
Okay, so transport is increasingly under his influence. What's the next major phase?
The big push for acquisitions. A systematic campaign to buy up competing refineries all across the country.
This wasn't just picking off one or two rivals. This was nationwide.
Oh, yeah. Highly organized, very deliberate, and they use a mix of tactics. Sometimes persuasion, offering fair price, maybe stock in Standard Oil.
But sometimes,
Yeah.
more pressure.
Definitely more pressure sometimes. Tactics like aggressive price cutting in a specific rival's market, what some called predatory competition.
Making it impossible for them to compete profitably.
Exactly. And there were also claims they used their influence over railroads and even crude oil supplies to squeeze rivals, making it hard for them to get raw materials or ship their products.
Wow. So pretty ruthless.
It was certainly seen that way by many. Rockefeller himself seemed to genuinely believe that consolidation was necessary, even inevitable. He felt those who resisted were just, well, delaying the unavoidable and would inevitably go to the wall, as the phrase went.
That's a strong conviction. It really shows the intensity of that era's competition.
It does. And the sheer scale and methodical approach of this acquisition drive, it screams ambition. Not just regional power, but total dominance of refining.
And he was willing to use pretty tough methods to get there.
The historical accounts certainly suggest that. It reveals a very determined, perhaps even ruthless focus on achieving his vision.
So what were the direct outcomes of this acquisition spree?
Well, the most obvious was a massive jump in Standard Oil's market share. They bought out scores of competitors.
Which naturally meant less competition.
Right. Less competition gave them much greater control over production levels and, critically, over pricing.
And there was another benefit too, wasn't there? Operational.
Yes, rationalization.
Theory.
They could shut down the older, less efficient refineries they acquired and concentrate production in their best, most cost-effective plants, streamlining the whole operation.
Now, looking at this period, it's complex ethically. What lessons can entrepreneurs today take navigating their own competitive fields?
Well, one thing is the power of having a very clear vision for your industry's future and being decisive in pursuing it. That's clear.
But it also raises questions.
It definitely does. It highlights how intense competition can get and the impact dominant players can have. For you, understanding those dynamics in your own field, thinking about consolidation trends, that's vital strategic thinking. And maybe it underscores that achieving market leadership often involves tough choices and a really relentless focus on efficiency and scale. But the methods used clearly matter and can generate significant backlash.
Right. Okay, so after consolidating much of the refining industry, where did that relentless drive focus next?
Inwards, onto efficiency and innovation within Standard Oil itself. He had this famous hatred of waste and disorder.
Almost an obsession with it.
It seems that way. A huge chunk of the profits wasn't taken out as dividends early on. It was plowed right back into the business. Constant reinvestment for growth.
Thinking long-term, not short-term payouts.
Exactly. And they were pioneers in vertical integration. They started making things they needed themselves, like barrels, even the sulfuric acid used in refining, cutting out suppliers, controlling quality and cost.
Taking control of more steps in the process.
And they got really innovative with byproducts, stuff that was previously just waste from refining. They found ways to turn it into valuable products, lubricants, waxes.
Finding value where others saw trash.
Precisely. And then there's the legendary attention to detail. Stories of Rockefeller himself tracking tiny things like the number of solder drops used to seal a kerosene can, or the bungs used to seal barrels.
Bungs, like
Yeah.
the plugs.
Yeah. Apparently they found they were losing a lot, or maybe paying too much for them, so he focused on it. It sounds minor, but across millions of barrels, those tiny savings add up enormously. It was about eliminating any waste.
That level of micromanagement, or maybe detailed oversight, it's incredible.
It really shows that commitment to squeezing out every last bit of inefficiency. It wasn't just big strategy, it was drilling down into the weeds.
And the payoff must have been huge.
Oh, absolutely. The benefits were massive. Dramatically lower operating costs gave them a huge sustainable edge over anyone left competing.
And turning waste into products obviously boosted profits.
Right. Plus, it fostered this culture across the company, a culture of always looking for improvements, maintaining high standards, being incredibly efficient.
So for entrepreneurs today, maybe feeling squeezed by costs.
Yeah.
What's the takeaway?
I mean, the big one is just the absolute necessity of controlling costs and hunting for efficiencies everywhere. It's not optional, it's survival.
It has to be constant.
Constant. Secondly, think about vertical integration. Does it make sense for you to bring parts of your supply chain in-house? It can give you control, potentially lower costs, worth exploring strategically.
Yeah, the bungs.
Huh? Yes, the bungs. The lesson there is, don't dismiss the small stuff. Pay attention to detail. Often, big savings come from lots of small improvements across the board. Cultivate that mindset of optimization.
Okay, so Standard Oil is now incredibly efficient, dominates refining.
Yeah.
What's left?
Extending that control across the entire supply chain, from the wellhead right to the customer, and expanding globally.
So moving beyond just refining and immediate transport.
Exactly. He started strategically buying up and building vast networks of crude oil pipelines. The big goal here, become independent of the railroads from moving crude oil.
Because the railroads could still hold them hostage on pricing for crude, even if Standard controlled refined product transport.
Precisely. He wanted to eliminate that vulnerability, that dependence, complete control.
And he went after anyone else trying to build independent pipelines too.
Oh, yes. Actively sought to acquire or integrate competitors like the Tidewater pipeline, leaving no major independent players if he could help it.
And then looking beyond the U.S.
Yeah. By the late 1870s, early 1880s, the ambition is clearly global. Organizing and trying to dominate oil markets worldwide. Some accounts say he felt those markets essentially belonged to him.
Wow.
Wow.
That's quite a mindset.
It shows the sheer scale of his ambition by that point. Total, end-to-end control, globally.
What were the benefits of this final push for dominance?
Well, getting independent of railroads for crude transport was huge, removed a major cost variable and a point of external leverage.
Gave them even more power.
Immense power. Controlling the flow of crude gave them huge leverage over any remaining refining competitors who still relied on those railroads or older transport methods.
And the global push.
Massive expansion of reach and profitability, obviously. Securing dominance in international markets cemented Standard Oil's position as a global behemoth.
So for entrepreneurs listening today, thinking about their supply chain or maybe global markets.
Firstly, it really highlights the strategic power you gain by controlling key parts of your value chain. Reducing those external dependencies can be a game changer. Gives you resilience, leverage.
Makes you less vulnerable.
Exactly. Secondly, don't be afraid to think big geographically. Look beyond your home market. Global expansion offers huge growth potential, though obviously challenges too.
And finally,
Well, it reinforces that drive and vision thing again, but maybe also serves as a reminder that such aggressive tactics to achieve dominance often create significant opposition and scrutiny, which certainly happened with Standard Oil.
okay, so that covers the rise of the empire. But then there's a major shift, isn't there? Rockefeller steps back from day-to-day operations.
Around 1896, yeah. And his passion, his drive, seems to pivot pretty dramatically towards philanthropy, large-scale giving.
He actually talked about his wealth as a responsibility, didn't he? A blessing he needed to use for good.
He did. Framed it in religious terms often, believed it was a duty given by God to use that fortune for humanity's benefit.
And the scale of his giving was just immense.
Yeah.
Over $500 million back then.
Over $550 million,
Yeah.
which is astronomical for that time. And it wasn't just random donations. He established major lasting institutions.
Like the University of Chicago.
University of Chicago, the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, which is now Rockefeller University, a world-leading research center.
And the big one, the Rockefeller Foundation.
Right. Founded in 1913. Its mission, right from the start, was incredibly broad: to promote the well-being of mankind throughout the world, and it's still doing that today.
It's quite a transformation, isn't it? From
Yeah.
the relentless industrialist to the, well, architect of modern philanthropy.
It really is. It suggests a profound shift in his core motivation later in life, applying the same scale and perhaps strategic thinking he used in business, but now towards societal goals.
And the impact is undeniable.
Absolutely. Funding groundbreaking medical research, building educational capacity, tackling public health crises globally. The positive effects are vast and ongoing. And of course, it significantly reshaped his public image and legacy.
So for entrepreneurs today who achieve success and maybe think about giving back, what can they learn from Rockefeller's philanthropic phase?
Well, one key thing is the power of being strategic about it. Setting up structures like foundations with clear missions can make your giving much more impactful and sustainable over the long term.
Not just writing checks, but building institutions.
Exactly. Secondly, focusing on big fundamental challenges like health, education, scientific research can create ripple effects and benefit society very broadly.
Aim for significant impact.
Right. And finally, it prompts reflection on legacy. Thinking beyond the business itself, how can your work, your resources, contribute positively to the world in a way that lasts?
Okay, so wrapping this up, we've gone on quite a journey through Rockefeller's driving forces.
We really have 7 distinct stages, you could say.
Yeah, starting with that early drive and financial discipline.
Then the focused consolidation to build Standard Oil.
The crucial pursuit of transportation advantage.
The aggressive acquisition of rivals.
Followed by that intense focus on internal efficiency and innovation.
Then the push for total supply chain control and global reach.
And finally, that massive shift into structured, large-scale philanthropy.
It's a remarkable story. His methods, especially in business, were and remain controversial, no question.
Absolutely, but his impact on both industry and philanthropy is just undeniable.
And for you listening, his journey offers so many lessons, things to emulate perhaps, and maybe things to be cautious about too, if you're trying to build something significant.
Definitely food for thought. And maybe here's a final thought for you to chew on. As you pursue your own goals, your own passions, how might your motivations change over time? What kind of lasting impact do you hope to make? Rockefeller's long and complex life certainly offers one very powerful example to consider.
We hope this deep dive has given you some valuable perspective. And hey, we're always curious, what other figures, what other major topics or events would you find useful for us to tackle in a future deep dive? Let us know.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we dig into a whole pile of sources to pull out the key knowledge you need, and fast. Today, we're diving deep into John D. Rockefeller. Specifically, what really drove him as his oil empire just kept growing and growing.
Right, we've looked through quite a bit of historical material on this.
Yeah, and our mission really is to unpack those motivations stage by stage and crucially, see what valuable lessons pop out for you, especially if you're, maybe building a business yourself.
Definitely. Rockefeller's obviously a huge figure, built this, well, unprecedented fortune, lots of partnerships, but also some pretty relentless acquisitions.
He's controversial, no doubt, admired and criticized. But let's start right at the beginning, before the oil boom really took off.
Okay, so what's fascinating is even before oil, you can see these core drivers already there. He's 16, working as a bookkeeper, not earning much at all.
Like barely anything by today's standards.
Exactly, but he's already saving money and giving some away. That's pretty remarkable for a teenager back then.
It shows this early discipline, doesn't it?
It really does. And
Yeah.
it wasn't just a phase. He kept giving more as his income grew. So it suggests something deeper than just, wanting to get rich.
And it wasn't just about the money itself. We see other signs too, right? This resourcefulness.
Yeah, that skill in bargaining. Even something as basic as learning how to pick out good quality wood for his dad.
It points to a mind that's always looking for value, for efficiency, instinctively.
Mm-hmm. And then there's how he handled borrowing money, even early on. That's quite telling.
Oh yeah, that tactic of suggesting he needed a bigger investment before asking for the actual loan he wanted.
Right. It shows this savviness, an understanding of leverage, maybe, and a certain confidence when dealing with finance, even before he hit the big time.
So if you break down those early actions,
Mm.
what does it tell us?
Well, you see a pattern.